Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's get straight into today's first story. Now, today's first story comes from Pretend Dragonfly68, who says, "Am I the arsehole for not translating for my wife when she hasn't put any effort into learning sign language? My 33 male father is deaf. Because of this, I've been signing for as long as I can remember. My wife, 33 female, is hearing and has never put much effort into learning ASL beyond a few basic signs. This has never bothered me, but it does make it difficult when we visit family since I basically have to play translator if she and my dad want to have conversations. But I do it to facilitate a bond between them. About 2 months ago, I learned of an opportunity at the local college in our city where volunteer native speakers could come converse with the students in the advanced ASL courses. It was going to be a monthly thing in order to track the students' progress. I jumped at the chance to help out. I'm very passionate about people learning ASL. One of the other volunteers that was a non-verbal man, Alex, 29 male, who I found an easy camaraderie with. We exchanged numbers and became fast friends. We began hanging out, and during the time we would spend at my place, I wouldn't translate even if my wife was in the room, other than their introductions and small talk, because Alex never requested I do so. After a few weeks of this, my wife brought it up as something that was bothering her. She said she felt left out and like Alex and I were keeping secrets. I politely apologized and went on to have a discussion with Alex about this whole thing. He said he felt it was rude that my wife never even as much made an effort to learn ASL, especially since I had very close family who were deaf, so he had no interest in conversing with her, and honestly, I kinda agreed with him. It didn't rub me the wrong way at first, but now that she's complaining about being left out despite having years to learn at least some of this new language feels silly to me. I let my wife know I would translate for my dad and her, but things were staying the same with Alex. She's still angry at me. Am I the arsehole? Edit. I addressed this in the comment, but I saw it as a reoccurring question and someone suggested I put it in the edit as well. We usually visit my dad every other weekend. And there was a bunch of mixed comments below this one, so Sloppy Poopy Poppy says, not the arsehole, purely because she's made no effort at all to communicate with your father, and she spent how many years excluding him from everything unless you were there to translate. Amy Louise says, soft, you're the arsehole. If I had a deaf child, I would 100% learn sign language, but for a parent-in-law, I don't think I would. It's not that easy for an adult to learn a language. You don't just take a few lessons, it's a years-long process. Even if she started now, it would be at least 5 years before she could even manage a basic conversation. You need to keep encouraging her to learn, but keep translating until she does. MX says, learning languages can be harder for some people than others. If your wife has made true efforts to learn and just struggles with it, then I'd maybe rule differently, but it sounds like she's never really tried to learn. That plus the fact that Alex did not want to include her via interpretation means you are not the arsehole. Vic says, you're the arsehole. 2 months ago you met a new friend who came into yours and your wife's home and insulted her, and you think that's okay. Is there something else going on here? I ask because it hasn't been an issue for years, as you say, when you need to translate for your wife and your actual father. I don't believe for one moment she's not picked up on anything in this time. But now you've made a new friend, it is a problem. Alex seems very sure of himself to suggest your wife is rude for never bothering to learn ASL, but does not believe he is rude for coming into her home and saying he has no interest in conversing with her. The audacity. Coke Can says, you're the arsehole, wife comes first, not some random dude. Clearly you've never spoken with her about putting in a serious dedicated effort to learn sign language since it only just occurred to you. You can't be mad she didn't go out of her way to learn when you never even talked about it with her, or tried to teach her yourself. She probably didn't see an issue with you translating, as it seems like you've never brought it up as being one before. And let's not even mention that a friend you barely knew heavily insulted your wife and somehow thought it was his place to comment on her sign language ability. I can't believe you are still friends with him, let alone took his side. That is so freaking rude to tell a supposed friend you've only known a short while you think their spouse is a dick and have no interest in speaking to them. The idea of learning a new language is extremely daunting and scary. let alone how difficult it is to actually do. And your wife seems to have actually tried, considering you said it yourself that she's learned some basic signs. I can't believe some people are taking your side. Go apologize to your wife right now. And one more from Treehorn8 who says, you're the arsehole. I was initially leaning towards no one's an arsehole here. Unlike you, your wife wasn't raised in a household where ASL was essential. Not everyone learns new languages easily. I've been bilingual since I was very small, but as an adult, I struggled with learning a third language and can barely carry a conversation even after taking classes. I can understand why your wife didn't feel like it was an immediate need to be fluent in ASL, since she doesn't live in the same household as your dad. What ultimately made you the arsehole was the fact that you let someone you've known for only 2 months trash your wife with clear disrespect in her own home. A space where it should be perfectly comfortable for her to speak her language that you both share. Husband of the year indeed. Alex was an arsehole too. I get how he has to depend on one language to communicate and understand to a certain extent why he felt that way, but he was a guest in your house. And unless your wife is in the process of moving out while you're busy building an art room for him, Alex can afford to learn some good manners. And there is lots of comments talking about that art room as well, which is a reference to another story where the husband met a new friend and then wanted an art room for him and was buying him extravagant gifts, and in the end turned out he was gay. But yeah, that's another story that we covered in the past, just to let you know the references. So then OP updated their post around 12 or so days later, which says, I have no idea why the Am I the Arsehole mods denied my request to update there, and this will likely get seen by very few, but hey, here's the update I submitted there for anyone who are curious as to how my situation turned out. Hey everyone, thank you for your kindness and constructive criticism on my first post. As many advised, I sat down and had a conversation with my wife about my changing point of view on her ASL abilities. I said I made a mistake by coming at her with resentment and hostility instead of taking the time to explain my thoughts. I expressed that I was hurt over her complaints because people like Alex and my dad have to go through life being unable to communicate. What she experienced isn't even a fraction of what they do. I reminded her that she had a deaf father-in-law for years and plenty of opportunities to learn, and she hasn't taken them. I mentioned in a comment on my original post that it's been a dream of mine to adopt a deaf/hard of hearing child sometime in the future. I brought this up to her again as yet another reason why learning could be beneficial. Even if that dream doesn't end up coming to fruition, there will still be people in our lives who communicate through ASL. There are literally no cons to learning, only pros. My wife said she understood and that she would make time to do so, even if it was just a daily sign from me or a quick YouTube video lesson. I thanked her and we moved on. During the week following this conversation, I saw no effort on her part despite what she said. I brought it up to her once a few days later, and again at the end of the week, and I was continually brushed off with what was essentially boiled down to, I'm busy, I'll get to it later. This was disheartening. I went to my parents' home alone last weekend and vented to them about what was going on. My dad shared with me a story, one I had heard many times before, about how quickly my mum started learning ASL after the two of them had met. He hadn't asked her to, and it took some time before they were able to have a proper conversation that way. But what had mattered was the effort. Not just passively, like my wife picking up a few basic signs over the years, but real, actively trying to learn effort. My mum suggested I give her a little more time, but that if this is something that means a lot to me, then I need to stand up for that. In the almost 2 weeks since the conversation with my wife, I've hung out with Alex many times and we did our monthly volunteer work at the local college. Being immersed in that culture feels invaluable to me. The juxtaposition between the appreciation for this beautiful language versus the scrapbooking and pottery classes my wife is in. It's been hard for me to accept that's where she would rather spend her time despite what we talked about. I didn't expect her to drop her hobbies, but she promised me she would try. When I admitted this to her, it caused a big argument. She's currently staying elsewhere while I'm staying at our home with a friend. Sometimes people's growth happens in opposite directions, it seems. And then there was many comments asking why Alex was just allowed to go in there and talk about his wife in that way, sort of like insult the wife in the home if you like. And Opie responded by saying, allowing space for someone to express frustration over their primary and only, in this case, form of communication being looked at as inconvenient or a tool for secret keeping doesn't feel disrespectful to me personally. But that being said, it is a fantastic way to gossip. People were also asking OP, did he communicate this prior to the marriage about how ASL was so important to him? And OP replied saying she obviously knew about my upbringing and the importance of ASL to me, but there was never an expectation that she learn it. Her complaining and me getting further involved in the community, plus creating a new support system, has started changing my opinion on things. People were also talking about OP and wife having children, and OP responded saying, "We don't have children currently. At one point, prior to meeting my wife, I was sincerely invested in the thought of adopting a deaf or hard of hearing child. That specific dream got put on the back burner when my life happened and things got a little more hectic. It's something that's been popping up in my mind again recently. And yeah, that would be difficult if one of the child's parents feels like it's too much effort to even try and communicate. Have some things to consider moving forward, it seems." And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story is going to come from the Petty Revenge subreddit from NeitherGlove4355, who says, "Ruin my wedding to propose. I'll ruin your proposal. Throwaway account. I, 35 male, have a young brother, Todd, 29 male, who had a complicated birth and had to stay a month in the ICU. Because of that, my parents have always doted on him and almost denied him nothing, even if it was to the detriment of my sister, Abby, 32 female, and I. My brother drinks in on the attention and has on more than one occasion made himself the center of attention at either my sister's or my cousin's special events. Because of this, Abby and I have a strained relationship with Todd and our parents. Unfortunately, Todd met and fell in love with Lucy, 24 female, who announced her own pregnancy at the baby shower my mum held for Abby. When I proposed to my wife, Michelle, 30 female, I just wanted to elope, but she really wanted her family to be there, so I invited my family out of obligation. While out, my best man, Jim, 35 male, noticed a receipt from a jewelry store slipped out of Todd's pocket. Jim confronted Todd about this, which led to an argument. Jim told me everything, and I told Todd that he was no longer going to be a groomsman because I knew he was going to propose at my wedding. Todd cried to our parents, which led to a blowout. In my parents' eyes, since Todd never admitted that he was going to propose to Lucy at my wedding, I was unfairly judging him. I refused and brought up Todd's past behavior. My parents couldn't refute this and got Todd to agree to not try anything at my wedding. This wasn't enough to convince me to let him be a groomsman, but I warned him that if, as a guest, he'd try anything, I'd make him regret it. Fast forward to the wedding, and surprise, surprise, Todd walked over to Lucy and proposed to her during Michelle's father-daughter dance, and did it in a way so that everyone would notice. Cue my revenge. Jim and I had hired a woman to pretend to be Todd's side piece who cornered Todd and Lucy and claimed that she was pregnant with his baby. Todd denied this, but when she called his phone, I gave her his number and messed with Todd's phone to incriminate him. It didn't look good. Lucy threw the ring back at Todd and left in tears. When Todd saw the smile on my face, he knew that it was me, and I didn't respond to a single call and text from him or my parents until after the honeymoon. Lucy has thrown Todd's stuff out and has been denying access to their kid. Todd is furious and demanding that I clear his name. I sent him a text saying that I had no idea what he was talking about, as well as a screenshot of the bill for the wedding, and gave a vague message demanding reimbursement for half of the wedding costs. Michelle knew the whole time what I was planning and gave me the green light after Todd ruined her moment with her dad. So I felt pretty good, but now even Abby thinks I went too far. As I said, it's a petty revenge post, but you can still give your verdicts on that if you want to. A lot of people were saying justified arsehole and it was more than petty revenge, etc, etc. But let me know your thoughts on that one, and let's move straight on to another story. And our next story comes from Whole Ferret 9774, who says, "Am I the arsehole because I baked my own birthday cake after my wife bought one? For my 32 male birthday, I always like one specific kind of cake. A chocolate-covered cherry cake. My mum or dad always made it for me since it wasn't one of the available flavors at any bakeries or stores near where we grew up. When I moved away, I started to make it myself. I've been married to my wife just under a year, but we've been together for 6 years, so she knows all about this cake. During that time, we've either baked it together, my parents made it, or I've made it on my own. I've never asked or expected her to do it. Before my birthday this year, my wife asked me what kind of cake I wanted. Same kind as always, but she told me that she didn't feel like baking. I told her she didn't need to worry about baking it because I can just do it myself. She asked me a second time and I gave her the same answer. The day before my birthday, I get home from work and have all the ingredients to make my cake. Go to get something out of the fridge and there's a pair of cheesecakes in there with happy birthday written between them both. I asked my wife about it and she said those were the cakes for my party the next day and she thought of switching things up this year because everyone loves cheesecake. I don't hate it, but she gets cheesecake at least once a month. I only ever have the cherry cake on my birthday. I told her I appreciate it and they look good, but I really want the cake I like, so I was going to make mine and we just let everyone have a choice of what cake they want. She got pissed off and yelled that I ruined her attempt to make things easier on us by not having to bake and bringing the cake that everyone would love. It's been 2 days since the party and she was cold at the party and is still acting cold. Usually, I move mountains and heavens to give her the things she wants on her birthdays and celebrate how she wants. I just wanted one specific cake for mine. Am I the arsehole? And a cheeky little update from OP who says, update to the recipe for everyone asking. 1 box of chocolate cake mix, 1 jar of maraschino cherries, 1 can cherry pie filling, 1 teaspoon almond extract, 1 container of Cool Whip, 2 to 3 cups might work. I like to slather the whole container on. Chocolate sauce, rum to taste. Make the cake mix as directed, mix the maraschino cherries, almond extract and rum. Bake, take out, and let it cool. Mix together the Cool Whip and cherry pie filling, ice the top of the cake and all the sides. Drizzle with a desired amount of chocolate sauce. Holy moly, it's too early to want so much cake already, and that sounds amazing. Minus the almond extract. Now, there's no way you're going to be the arsehole to me in this. 1, it's your birthday anyway. I think you should get what cake you want. You wasn't demanding that she make the cake. You said that you would do it yourself. You got all the ingredients to do it yourself. And even when you came back to find 2 cheesecakes in the fridge with happy birthday on, you said that you still wanted to make the cake anyway, and people can have the choice to eat what cake they want. And then she gets pissed at you for that. I mean, I'm a cheesecake fan too. I mean, I'm just a fan of cake in general, really. If someone asks for a certain type of cake and it's possible and you don't have to go too far out your way, I don't think it's that much of an issue, and I don't know why she's acting like this. I mean, I find it really weird, her behavior, to get really pissed off about it. But Suitable Cod says, not the arsehole, and it's weird for her to have even bothered asking what kind of cake you want if she was going to ignore you and choose her favorite cake instead. Also, I've never heard of a party being ruined by too much cake. That's patently absurd. Is she weirdly controlling about other things as well, or is this just because she doesn't like chocolate cherry cake? I don't get it. Usually Right says, not the arsehole. She got cheesecake because that's what she likes. That's not really the point when you're getting something for another person. Like if I'm buying a bottle of wine to gift a friend who prefers Pinot Noir, which I do not like, I'm not going to bring a Cabernet pronunciation instead. Maybe in addition to, but not instead of. And her flipping out about it is total gaslighting. She wanted what she wanted and didn't want to bake. There was no reason that she couldn't get cheesecake too, but expecting you not to make your cake a known tradition is just nuts. S666 says, not the arsehole, but she is. In 6 years, she still asks what type of cake you want, and says she doesn't want to make a cake and then asks you again. How is she so unable to just say that she doesn't really like that cake? So, if you're happy to make your favorite cake, is it okay if she buys something else so that she has a choice? Why won't people use their words? And how does she know everyone will love cheesecake? Does your cake usually go uneaten or something? If not, people clearly like your cake, so she's really just buying something she wants. I get pissy over another cake. Who gets pissy over cake? There's no such thing as too much cake. I love these subreddits when we get stories about cake and how passionate people get about them. But Pink Doff says, not the arsehole, your wife asked you twice and then deliberately disregarded your preference. She clearly likes cheesecake and figured she'd impose what she wants on your birthday. I get that she didn't feel like baking, that's her prerogative, but in that case, she should have just let you do what you'd said you would and bake the birthday cake yourself. She made a bad call. Treeflower says, not the arsehole, you want one thing. Just one thing for your birthday, but your wife wouldn't compromise at all. Instead, she came up with every excuse in the book to not have your favorite cake. She didn't want to make it. That's fine, you'll make it. She says everyone loves cheesecake. Good for them, but you love your chocolate-covered cherry cake. She got mad that she bought the cheesecake, but you're going to make your cake anyways. You said anyone can choose and she blows up. You might need to sit down and talk to her about why she was so adamant about cheesecake. By the way, I googled chocolate-covered cherry cake. I never tried it, but I can already see why it's your favorite. And let's just have a little cheeky googly goo ourselves and find this cake, and oh my word. If this is the type of cake, I want to make one of these myself. That looks absolutely amazing. I'm a big fan of cherries anyway. As I said, I'm a big fan of cake as well. This just sounds amazing to me. And let's have one more final comment from OK Lynn, who says, not the arsehole. What is your wife's damage? You literally could not have handled this any more gently. You held no expectation for her to follow through on the cake you wanted. Were perfectly content in making it yourself and didn't have an issue with the cheesecakes being available at the party. Sounds like she's harboring guilt that you didn't push on her. This is such a ridiculous thing for her to be pissy about. It's literally your birthday. Also, cheesecake is disgusting, so she has bad taste too. Holy moly. Anyway, what do you guys make of this one? I expect some passion for the cake here, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And have you ever tried a chocolate-covered cherry cake? It's certainly on my list from now on. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the channel. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. You're absolutely incredible. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows.